Hello everyone, it's been a while since I was able to get one of these out, but I saw the story and I really had to do this. So at first glance, this might not look like much, but have I ever disappointed you before? In this case, I think revulsion is more probable, so do not say you were not warned. Drunk woman took a soiled sanitary pad from her underwear and threw it at a cop. On the face of it, yeah, I can almost hear you saying, ew. But wait, it gets worse. The headline buries the lead. A drunk woman diagnosed with HIV and hepatitis C who shoved a used sanitary pad in a police officer's face has been jailed. Oh yeah, this story just went full red pill. Claire Clarkson, 37, became increasingly agitated after officers received reports of a woman who was suicidal in Trafford. After spending some time trying to calm her down in the back of a police van, Clarkson fled to a nearby takeaway shouting, "They've robbed me! Help!" Manchester Magistrates Court heard. Clarkson from Timperley was arrested for being drunk and disorderly. As officers tried to take her home, Clarkson, who was clutching an empty bottle of wine, then threw her handbag towards the officers. Wait, they were taking her home. I thought she was arrested for D&D. Is it me, or is this narrative a little shaky? Still, it's not like it could escalate any more, could it? She was then taken to a police station for a risk assessment when she reached into her underwear and threw a soiled sanitary towel into the face of the investigating officer. Oh crap. The police were already aware that she was marked positive for HIV and hepatitis C. This woman is lucky she didn't accidentally fall in her cell after this behaviour. Pleading guilty to assaulting an emergency worker and being drunk and disorderly, Clarkson was sentenced to 26 weeks imprisonment. Saying 6 months sounds longer, and I do hope she serves all of it. Outlining the facts, prosecutor Robin Lynch said that the police were called out on Saturday, May 9th, at 9:15 p.m. after receiving reports of a suicidal female who was extremely intoxicated. They made their way to the area and saw the defendant, who appeared to be under the influence of alcohol. She was holding an empty bottle of wine and shouting at a nearby block of flats, Mr. Lynch said. Officers attempted to engage with her. She was described as being increasingly agitated. Officers were concerned for her welfare and wanted to take her home or to a friend's house to make sure that she was safe. They spoke to her for quite some time as she sat in the back of a police van. However, Clarkson began to shout, "They've robbed me! Help!" and ran into a nearby takeaway. She was then arrested for being drunk and disorderly. As she calmed down, they decided to take her home, but as they attempted to do so, she grabbed her handbag and threw it in the direction of the officer. She was then taken to Cheadle Heath Police Station, the court heard. In the custody suite, the sergeant was going to perform a risk assessment on the defendant, but she refused to answer any questions, Mr. Lynch added. They were concerned for her safety, so it was decided for her to be placed in a cell for her own safety. As they did so, she reached into her underwear and threw a soiled sanitary towel in the face of the officer. The officer who was questioning the defendant said there was a marker against her name saying she was positive for Hep C and HIV. Okay, that narrative sounds more coherent, clarifying that the police were trying to be helpful to this woman who was drunk and disorderly, but not immediately arresting her twice, and were supportive in trying to give her a lift home. Unfortunately for the police officers, it appears no good deed goes unpunished, and the defendant grabbed her metaphorical shovel and started Digging. In a victim personal statement, she said she found it disgusting that somebody would deliberately throw that at her. Oh damn. It was a female cop. I guess female solidarity is dead. She said that Clarkson suffered from 2 ailments that could change her life. Clarkson was said to have many previous convictions, including assaults on emergency workers. Yeah, I'm just going to freeze on this sentence briefly, just to help it sink in. In mitigation, her defense lawyer Paul Green said, "It's a frankly terrible set of circumstances you've just heard. It's quite appalling, really." This is her defense lawyer. She is the first to admit that in the cold light of day. "I tried to ask her what was behind this, and she couldn't tell me. She had taken methadone, and she was intoxicated." I think I may have spotted a reason in there somewhere. There are mental health issues, and she suffers with depression. A representative for the mental health team told the court that she is alcohol dependent and has mental health issues linked to opioid use and alcohol use. She had previously been admitted to an acute mental health ward after overdosing on methadone, but discharged herself after a few days. Are you allowed to discharge yourself from an acute mental health ward? It was said she had since been under the care of the home treatment team, but has refused to give them an address, so they weren't able to go and see her. For that reason alone, I think it would have been best if she had been picked up by the authorities beforehand. Sentencing her, District Jack McGarva told her, "It's hard to describe what I think about what you did. It was an absolutely gross attack on a police officer just trying to do her job. It's hard to imagine how she would have felt. This was a horrible attack on so many levels. Firstly, the risk of contamination of all sorts of illnesses. We are all conscious of the effects of some of these illnesses. Several could be life-changing or killers. Spitting is bad enough, but what you did is absolutely humiliating and degrading to the officer, and I can't think of much worse of what you have done to her. To make matters worse, you have a record for assaulting emergency workers. I have got some information about your mental health, which I acknowledge is fragile. I have to express public disgust of what you did, and the only way to do that is to impose a prison sentence." Clarkson of Oakley Court, Altrincham, was also ordered to pay £128 victim discharge. Following the case, Kat Smithson, Director of Policy for the National AIDS Trust, "I want to reassure that there was no risk of HIV or hepatitis C transmission from the reported incident that involved a sanitary product being thrown. I don't know about you, but I'm going to take that risk assessment with a pinch of salt. I am also seriously hoping that the police officer involved has a series of negative results in all future blood panel testing." There were also comments made that this was all a big misunderstanding. The drunk bird was trying to show the officers her pussy pass, but it got out of hand. Yes, that's a low blow, but I went there. I'm not sure what else I can add to this except to say that your sole purpose in life is to serve as a warning to others.
Governor, and I took some notes. I'll come back to my dinner. I'm not sitting here crying.
He's not going to cry the whole time.
We can put you on the next flight. What? We can put you on the next flight. No, I can't. I have to. When you will sit right here and I want your name. Right here.
What's your name?
Tabitha 9766.
Thank you, Tabitha. You may not have a job tomorrow.
I want this lady off the flight.
No, I can't.
I want you off my flight.
I can't, Tabitha. I have to. I apologize. Please. I apologize.
All right, then.
I apologize. I have to end this fight. Thank you, Tabitha.
She was screaming at the beginning.
I'm not screaming. I'll be quiet now, please. Okay, I'm sorry. I was really stressed out.
Now Perez's name and image have been removed from the council's official website, and she's been placed on a leave of absence.
You may not have a job tomorrow.